Welcome to episode 106 of the Excerpt Toolcast. In this episode, Scott and I speak with Erik Donker, an ethical hacker, on how to hack the Power Platform. Okay, so that is part of the show today, about ethical hacking, and he is an ethical hacker, but that wasn't the reason we actually had Erik on the show. So Erik is a developer. He is a creator of the PrettifyMyWebApi Chrome extension, which is a really awesome extension and worth the price of the show in and of itself. But he's also an ethical hacker and has been awarded money from Microsoft for some of the exploits that he has found. And we just spent some time diving into what's that like, how does that work, and just how do we do security well on a low-code platform. So sit back and relax and enjoy this awesome episode with Erik. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Excerpt Toolcast. With me, your host, Daryl, always raising the bar, and Scott, the original SaaS Dro. Scott, how's it going?
Thank you. As of last week, I'm kind of suspicious of your segues now. I'm slightly nervous about how, it's like, okay, how am I going to work out what Daryl's saying,
Yeah, this isn't quite as much as what other ones have been, no.
No, I don't think you'll ever get better than last week, to be honest. But
no.
I'm doing very well, thank you, Daryl.
Okay.
Yeah,
what was last week?
That.
Erik, he's so Erik, we've never actually met Erik before, so this is the first time. Scott, have you met Erik before?
No, I've never met Erik.
Okay, so anyway, so we found this tool on the interwebs. Like, hey, this is great. We should share it with people. So our guest today is Erik Donker. I'm guessing that's a fairly close.
That's
right?
a great way to pronounce it.
He develops stuff and he hacks things. He's a Microsoft MSRC 2023 Most Valuable Researcher, 11th place, and the top Dynamics 365 researcher, 1st place.
Yes, that's actually true.
Fourth. It's a one with a TH. I don't know how to pronounce that, but anyway, it's 1st place. I understand. So anyway, Erik, welcome to the show. So, Erik, our previous episode, Scott was just transitioning to Microsoft, so he was getting his blue card, as we refer to it, and so I used the back in blue as kind of callback to that. But then our guest was also going to be on a panel with Scott at a conference that's called ACDC. And so back in blue, back in black, ACDC, like all that tied together very nicely. And I thoroughly enjoyed the minute. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the minute that Scott got that. And then Sarah actually enjoyed it as well. So yes, back in blue.
It was the light bulb moment.
Does it mean that you've been at Microsoft before, then left and then went back? So, okay.
No. This is what confused me as well.
Well, he's to the podcast in blue. I mean, so
okay.
Yeah.
But interestingly, though, we did interview Nick Dolman the week before that, actually, and he had been an MVP, and then he went to Microsoft, and then he's come back to becoming well, hopefully he'll become an MVP at some point. So all change, lots of changes. But thank you very much for coming on, Erik. And as Daryl said, we kind of both saw your tool pop up, and it looks really, really interesting. But maybe before that, this whole ethical hacking thing, maybe you can talk to us about a little bit about that, because maybe other listeners don't know what that is. I'd like to know more.
Yes, I'm sure you do. I can talk a little bit about it. I'm actually for like the majority, I'm not allowed to talk about it even, so I can't share any details at all. But yes, I also do ethical hacking, and my main focus is as you said, they're all the Power Platform. So I actually made 1st place last year. That was nice.
So you found the ways to hack into it and to do things you weren't supposed to in 1st place. You can't tell us what you did, but you say that you were the best.
Well, the numbers.
What would
according to the numbers, I'm the best.
Just out of interest.
Oh, yes.
Would somebody pull up outside your house in a black limousine? And
yes, the suits will come and take me they're actually waiting outside right now.
This all bugged. Everything's bugged now, right?
Yes, of course, yeah. So Yeah, I found some security vulnerabilities in the Power Platform, but can't share any details. But I think one day, like maybe in a year, or maybe even 2 years or something, I would like to write a series of blog posts or something about it. I think a lot of people would be really interested in it to read it, like the things that I did. But right now, it's I cannot discuss any details. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting subject because obviously, security vulnerabilities are a serious subject.
Yes,
I mean, and Microsoft take it incredibly seriously. I mean, security and trust is just, at the very center of everything they do and has been for a very long time. And I suppose, people like yourselves are contributing to that focus on security and being able to have a trusted platform. I mean, what made you want to kind of do it? Was it about curiosity, or is there any other kind of?
It was the first one. So the first time I was just I actually was triggered to research like certain vulnerabilities by actually the extension that we are talking about right now. So I had some issues there, like in the draft version, it wasn't public or something. So that forced me to to read into it, like, okay, what was that? So how do certain things happen? How to prevent them? And like I think a year or 2 years later, maybe something like that. After that, one day I just thought to myself, okay, well, let's just try to find some actual stuff in the Power Platform. Let's see if I can find an issue. And then I found an issue very, very quickly, like within the hour, I think.
I think that's a testament to your skill, perhaps, rather than.
It was also a lot of luck because, I'm not going to share details for this one. It was also luck, but I think I just thought to look in a place where different researchers hadn't looked before. So I think I was the first to look in a certain spot, in Power Platform. And if you're the first to look, then then you have like the odds of
find the bodies.
Then you find the skeletons in the closet. If you're the first to look, the odds of finding stuff are higher, of course. If you look at like bug bounty programs, so I'm a bug bounty hunter. If you look at bug bounty programs that a lot of people have looked at, then it's going to be very, very hard to find issues. And lots of people look at the Power Platform, I know this. But, I just stumbled on a place where, apparently a vulnerability existed. So I just found that one. And I reported that securely to Microsoft. I mean, everybody can do that. It's open for everyone to join the program. So I wrote a report, got a nice bounty for it. And then I was like, okay, this is nice. This is, it's fun. It's good for my, to feed the curiosity, and it pays well. So, that's how I rolled into it. And then, and I just, at first you focus on a certain type of vulnerability and then something else and then something else. And, 2 years later now, almost, you kind of become an expert in certain things. So that's nice.
I think everyone listening to this their minds are going crazy like mine is. Like, oh, I wonder what it is. What is it? Come on, like, I want to know. Where it is. But I think it's interesting because, like, when a lot of the time we talk about using the Power Platform over perhaps traditional pro dev tools, tool sets, and if you're going to go and build an enterprise grade application from scratch, from based on some, kind of very much more lower level, even though they may be building blocks like ASP.NET or whatever. There's a lot of things that you need to think about yourself in order to make sure that you've got a secure application, the vectors, the surface area is completely covered. What's your views on that in terms of the Power Platform? Because I certainly would hope that by using the Power Platform, I'm sort of delegating, I'm kind of giving responsibility to somebody else to deal with making sure that my my enterprise grade application is secure, and people like yourself are contributing to that because there's so many more people giving it scrutiny. Whereas if I built my own application, then, well, it's probably only going to be me looking at it. So, what's your views on like the pro code versus, using a low code platform in terms of security?
You can trust the platform to be secure, like totally. I would even after finding vulnerabilities, I would say like it's totally. It's not Microsoft talking. This is just me talking. You don't need to worry about security. Like let's put that first. I actually have seen in the past that also by using low code tools, it's very easy to introduce your own vulnerabilities. Actually, like very very easy. For example, let's say I have a Canvas app, and for that Canvas app I call a Power Automate flow, right? So in that Power Automate flow, I have a connection for a highly privileged user, and the connection is not shared, right? So in that flow, I do certain things in the system that caller of the Canvas app cannot access himself, right? So a low privileged user is using high privileged connection. So I've actually seen in the past that, for example, inputs are given to that flow, and that inputs are then put in a query parameter, like in an OData query, for example. So if you don't escape the values, if you don't escape the quotes and the slashes and those kinds of things, then it's very easy to also, put malicious payloads inside of that, input malicious payloads into the flow, and then, for example, get more data back than you should have, or like reach parts of an API that you shouldn't have.
Yeah, because of the elevated privileges that you're running,
exactly.
you can be running under. Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's the thing. If you're sharing any kind of connection with people, that you need to be careful who you're sharing with. But doesn't that same challenge exist if you're building if you've got a team of developers building a high code kind of pro code solution? Doesn't the same challenges exist? That a developer could easily create a web API that runs under a high privileged user.
Yeah, true. It also happens, like both things happen. So I think it's just interesting because I think the high code part gets a lot of attention. Like your API should be secure. Like you don't want SQL injections, those kinds of things. Like everybody knows about that. But there's also like very subtle vulnerabilities that can sneak in. That people might not be aware of. But for a low code, in my opinion, it actually doesn't get a lot of attention. So I think it's a big risk actually, where low code developers create something. And they just go for the solution that works, but they might not think about security because they are just not like trained or like focused on that. They are just focused on getting it to work, and then maybe making it a bit nice.
That's a really good point.
And that's it. And then they're done,
And because it's, a lot of people wonder about the focus on governance, right? Because there's a lot of focus on the Power Platform governance, COE, and the whole kind of managed environments and looking at policies around DLP policies, all those kind of things. And a lot of people go, oh, well, is it really necessary? Is it just like this kind of tax that we're putting on ourselves? And but actually, when you talk about those kind of things, then it really does demonstrate that actually, just in the same way as you have to have a focus for high code solutions, like you were saying, because it's more recognized that you do. Well, the same needs to happen with a low code. You need that same focus, and that's why governance is so important.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like this topic we could probably come back and have like a whole discussion on.
I can talk for hours and hours on end about this about the subject. I mean, there's so much to talk about. There's so many things that can go wrong. And that's the thing, right? Yeah. If you as a developer, if you do 99 out of 100 things right, I mean that one thing that you did wrong can still potentially like breach your entire backend. If you just one simple mistake that you weren't aware of, and everything can be breached. So I mean you see it in the news, right? Like those breaches, they happen every day, everywhere. I mean it's a very big thing actually. I mean ransomware is. I mean.
And it's not if as much as when, right? Like it's when are they going to find, like, even was it Windows 95 or Windows 3 point whatever, where you could actually log in by like going through like the help and going through like the questionnaire, and you could actually bypass all the login.
Yeah.
I think it was Windows 3. You could actually log in. That's like
yeah.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. Like, I think, didn't it, someone said if you turn on like a Windows 95 machine and connect it to the internet, then, you know, you could just basically watch the seconds tick down before something happens.
Yeah, probably.
But it's I mean, if you ever feel like writing a whole blog series on all the things that you do need to secure in terms of, you know, governance of your Power Platform environment from a security standpoint, I think that would be a hugely popular resource, because that there's
might be. I'm actually feeling that it might not be very popular. That's, to be honest, like, not. I just, because security part is just, you said people don't like to invest a lot in it. It's just my opinion. And also,
just like,
I don't have
la.
Also, I don't have a blog that a lot of people read, so that's also, I mean, I don't have a lot of reach. I'm actually planning on, I already reserved my domain name, but I need to create the blog still. I mean, I have some.
Well, you come on the XRM Toolcast, so, you know, now you've reached.
Yeah.
How many people,
nice.
Daryl? I mean,
I don't know. How
12,
many?
13.
So, well, it's
like
got to be at least 14.
Tens of people, I would say.
Well, it's got to be more, right? I mean,
it's getting up there. It's getting more and more. It's it's growing. It's growing. But yes.
Well, I mean, we obviously, it is a topic that we could talk about for a very long time. But what we did want to talk about is the fantastic tool that you published. And I mean, Daryl, have you taken a look at it? Because I've been looking at it. It does some really interesting stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, having a Prettifier is something that I've been using for a long time, but it was very basic. And now, as I found out this morning, and Erik was kind enough to help me out with, Edge has one built in by default that actually wrecks his tool.
Yeah.
So you have to go and you got to go and turn that flag off. So, but once you turn that off, I'm like, oh, this is actually really nice, because so the things that, because the name of the tool, let's start there. The name of the tool, the PrettifyMyWebApi for Microsoft Dataverse.
Yes.
It's a Chrome extension, which you can also use in Edge, which, as I just mentioned, you need to turn off the JSON viewer flag in Edge in order to do that. In order to use it correctly, it still can prettify it, but it won't be used the way you want. It really, the power, you lose the power. You lose the power, the power of it. But yeah, you can see every single field for that entity, which is always great, because lots of times you're on a table, you're on a view, and you're like, a form, you're like, oh, I need this record or this attribute, and it doesn't exist. Okay, now I need to go edit it. So lots of times I'm opening up like SQL for CDS and running a SQL script, grabbing the GUID out of the URL in order to do that. And this would be a much simpler way to do that. Just go in and edit that, view it and edit it. And then I really like the ability to be able to drill into the next layer down.
Nice.
To say, all right, well, this is linked to this entity. Let me go look at that entity's records. And that, it just makes a very simple, smooth, buttery sort of experience in that.
Yeah,
so those are my 2 cents.
That's the idea. Yeah. I mean, the idea of the tool is that you have a very, like an in-place tool to just do what you want right now without having to leave, the browser, without having to start, XRM Toolbox, which of course, I know it's already open, right? If you're developing, I mean, you don't have to start it up, but just an in-place way to quickly do the things that you need. Then you can go on with your day. That's the whole idea. Yep. Just to help you out with developments, or to bypass form restrictions as an end user, maybe. But I haven't heard any complaints yet that people are doing that.
We've been able to do that for years.
I mean, of course. But
make a workflow to do it. And everything too, yeah.
But I think
easier.
I think the Level Up extension actually has an option that you can install a solution into the environment or something, and then it doesn't work for end users if you don't have the sys up and roll. I think they actually added something like that to that extension. But then you can of course grab another one, and that's going to work. So
yeah, because enterprises were starting to block that extension because there was it was I don't know, about two or 3 years ago, there was a sort of period of time where it all blew up into a bit of a thing, and everyone was getting into a little bit of hysteria about it.
Really?
And so I think that was why, that's why that particular change was made.
on the client, it feels like for me, or the org. Some of them are like, oh yeah, this is just security by obscurity.
Yes.
Great. Now, I mean, someone could do that. But other ones are like, oh no, the world's dying. Like, well, there's like 12 other tools. Yes, this is easier, but it's still security by obscurity. Like it's just,
it's not security.
So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is no system should rely on simply preventing somebody from doing something at the JavaScript level. I mean, that's right there is a vulnerability.
That's the first level.
Yes.
But it's the first level. If you're on that level, we've got issues.
But it still happens a lot. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yes.
And you get paid for it too, Erik. So that's great. I mean, you can't complain too much. I mean, you're probably slipping. Hey, you guys should probably do this really, really bad thing. That way, I can get some kickback for it. Yeah, that's how it works.
I cannot complain. Let's just put it like that.
It's like a Mr. Robot episode or something, you know.
Yes. You know, I realized I never went back and explained the Scott SaaS Duro. Did you catch that one?
Service. Yeah.
Yes. So in the Level Up Discord channel, which I made a post on LinkedIn and went like viral for some reason. I swore I posted like three different things, but that one went viral. And Scott joined because of this, I guess. But I just mentioned that I think Scott's a bot; it's not real. And then he showed up and he said, "Scott is a service here. Scott at your service. How might I help?" So it was it was classic. I enjoyed it.
Mate, I claim it's not me. It's just a bot. That's all it is. Maybe that's one day. That's what will happen. Is we'll just be able to create our own little GPTs that are completely trained on our own personalities, and we'll just deploy those everywhere, and then we can just sit back and enjoy, you know, pina coladas on a beach like Sarah does, and that'll be fine. I mean, that was interesting. That the whole GPTs for everyone at the Open AI conference I was watching. It's getting very interesting. But anyway, we're digressing again. So, I mean, going back to the extension then. So, what was the real driver behind you doing this? I mean, have you been using Dataverse for a long period of time? Have you been building solutions that you found that you've had challenges that you needed to solve with, which is why you built this tool?
Yeah, exactly. So the inspiration for this tool is actually the GodDips toolbox. I don't know if you know that one. I think he's called William Dibburn or something. He is that a new one?
GodDips?
Yeah, it's called GodDips. Oh. So GOT.
Another episode,
DIBS. GodDips. And it was, you can, that was a page where you could, he had a page of bookmarklets, the JavaScript bookmarklets. I don't know if you know those. You can, you drag them to your bookmark box and then you have those little scripts. Yeah. And that was just a thing where, you could, do the usual, like unlock the form, unlock the fields, show the logical names, those kinds of things. And a colleague of mine introduced me to it, and I was like, that's very useful. But I missed what I found myself often doing was browsing to the Dataverse Web API. So, I mean, you had to grab, the form ID, and in the legacy interface, it was kind of a pain. Also, sometimes I think, you click the share, that share email, share link, thing, and then you could grab to it from that one. You had to go to the Web API, paste that, so that was just a pain. So the first thing for me was, okay, I want to write a script. I just click it and I open the current record in the OData Web API. Like that was the first step. So this extension, my extension also does that. And after that, I was like, okay, but this output is hard to read, and from one thing came the other, and now it's a very over-engineered tool. That's how I like it.
That's what we all like that, right?
You should spend way too much time in details in features that nobody use. That's the whole point, right? So, just because you want to see it work, at least that's it for me, at least. And one day I was like, okay, I found myself, if I had to edit fields, I found myself writing JavaScript, or like writing C# or putting a field on a form, just because you needed to change it. And for me, it was often the case when I had to write plugins. Plugins often rely on hidden fields, fields that the end users don't see. And it was just so frustrating for me that I had to do all these extra steps just to like tamper with those fields. So that led me to create, the on-the-fly form, that added this record feature. And using that feature, you can just, Daryl already introduced it, so you can just edit all of the fields for that record on the fly. So, and then I added way more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and I spent lots and lots of time getting it all to work. And lately that Power Automate feature I added. I also posted it on LinkedIn, and for me that post went viral. Like for my standards, it was viral. A lot of people, and I got a lot of users after it. Like I think 200 or 300 people, like additional people, started using the extension. So that's nice. But it was just born out of my own frustration, like out of my own needs, and then I just felt like sharing after. Like when I wrote the extension, when I published it, it was already like in development for 3 or 4 years, maybe, like just adding things every now and then, right? And then at one point I was like, okay, this is good enough. Let's make it public. And some people are using it now.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously for any listeners, we'll put links in the show notes and everything, and there'll obviously be an exclusive discount code there as well for
yes, it's even more free.
Yes,
it's even more free.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
it's freer.
Freer, yeah.
More freer.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a great story, because like when tools are born out of your own needs, and when you are frustrated about doing things over again, you want to make it easier for yourself. That's really when they end up being the best, because making it easy for yourself means that it's going to be easier for other people as well.
Yeah, true.
And so the whole kind of Chrome Edge extension piece, is this the first Edge Chrome extension you'd built, or have you done others before?
No, this was the first. It was actually a pretty big pain to get it all to work. I mean, the Chrome. I thought that the documentation for the Chrome V3 extensions was hard to read. Lots of issues. It was a lot of work to getting it all of the components like glued together in a stable and secure way. It was quite a lot of work, but after you get the hang of it after a while. But it was it was the first time building such an extension, and it was harder. It was just harder than I thought it would be. I would just phrase it like that. You have to jump through all kinds of hoops to get everything correct, and they do it for security, right? You have to, like, components can only talk in certain ways with each other, and that's just to make it hard for the developers to make it unsecure for your end users. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's
I looked at making one way back in the day, and I gave up. So you're better than I.
Well, no.
This isn't worth it. I'm done.
It's unlike you, Daryl, to give up on something. It's normally
you don't realize how much I've given up on, Scott.
We only see the successful things, right? That's the thing.
That's right. You only see success.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Well, I see you've got almost half the number of users as the Got Dibs extension. So now I got to go check that one out too. So going back to the Prettify my web API, Scott, have you had a chance to play around with it yet?
Yeah, I installed it.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's just like, really slick. And the problem you're solving is exactly the same problem I have as well. It's always like you find yourself going off somewhere else and having to do things elsewhere. But so being able to do it right there inside that extension is really neat. And I can see myself kind of using this more and more in kind of getting out of my older habits of doing things in other tools.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It'll grow on us, yes. So one part of our show that you may not be aware of, Erik, is we invite people on. They come on, they share their gifts, their talents, their time, and they share their expertise. And then we just ask them to do more. We give them homework. Like, if you're not good enough, you got to do more. You got to improve. So,
okay, sure.
Is there a dark theme for this thing? Can we get a dark theme?
Well, my name actually means...
The world wants to know.
My last name actually means dark. Donker, it's dark in Dutch.
Okay.
So... Okay. Yeah, I guess I should make a dark theme, right? It's fitting.
Yeah, you should pick a darker theme, yes.
Yeah, even darker. Well, I will do it in my next update. My next update is going to include the dark theme, especially for you.
Dark theme.
Yeah, and I will just include a little Easter egg or something for the Xterm Toolcast if you want to, just.
Yeah, please, if you could do. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll just make it so that when people use the extension 1 in a million times, I will rename their organization to Xterm Toolcast. Is that is that a good idea?
Just automatically subscribe them to our YouTube channel. That's probably the best thing to just do that.
Yeah, just send.
No one will complain about that at all. They'll love it.
No, it's probably sure. I don't think I can do that, but I can redirect them to your YouTube page. That's also fine. If it's also okay, I can do that. I think.
Do whatever you'd like, but there's no expectations for it. No, I was just giving a hard time. I did see that there is some potential issues with on-prem, or
yes.
There's what was up with that? I haven't touched it in so long. I don't even know what the issues would be. But what was that?
Well, it has to do with also the Chrome extension. You have to specify in the manifest file. You have to say which kinds of domains can use the extension, and also there was also a reason I didn't support on-prem is because I also know that for on-prem you can also specify your own paths in the URL, and you can specify your own things that might or not work in the organization. So it's a little bit hard to support that because you don't know exactly how that organization is set up, and also when it's a local URL and I also don't have any organizations myself where I work or something where I can test those. So so it's it's a little bit hard to support it. So for now, for the first version, I just decided to not do it. But I got some complaints that I was leaving those people out. So I'm gonna publish an update.
Some cries for help, not complaints. They want the goodness that you're offering.
All right. So some suggestions on how to improve the tool, right? Let's say it like that. So I'm gonna just write that in and publish the update whenever I have time for it.
Okay. So the primary issue then is that you specify what URLs you're going to be able to access, and on-prem you don't have any control over where that is, so you can't really do that very easily. Is that the primary issue?
Yeah. So in the Chrome extension manifest file, you have to say which URLs. So if I want to support on-prem, I just have to say I just have to wildcard that one. So it makes the extension also a little bit less secure. So that's also the thing.
Because then you do everything.
I prefer to make I want to give the extension as little authorizations as needed in order for it to run it, right? So I'm also really very very picky about security rules as well. I always try to give people at least the least level of the least amount of privilege that they need to do their job. So for this extension, it was the same. So I just wanted to, I can say, if the domain ends with .dynamics.com, right, or Power Apps or Power Automate recently, or I need to say everyone can use the extension, all URLs. So that's, and I prefer not to do the wildcards, but
yes, that makes sense.
So
they can even hack it themselves, right? They can edit the host file and create their own custom URL that is
you can do that.
In that way, and then there you go.
Yeah.
On-prem, you've solved the problem. Just change your URL and you're good to go.
Yeah, so
host files, goodness me, yeah.
The guy that requested it actually did that. So now he can use the extension on this, and he modified the code a little bit, and he shared it with me, which was nice. And now he can use it in his on-premise environments as well. So that's very.
That's cool.
But I don't think a lot of users will take those steps. It's going to be too much work, I guess.
No. Well, if you want it and you need it, you take the steps. But yes, to assume that most people will do that probably is true in that. So yeah. All right, so you're already talking about things you're gonna the next version. So you'll spend some more time working on it. Is there any other kind of big things that you thought maybe I'll tackle that next, or anything else that you're this is kind of big now, but
well, you already mentioned Dark Theme. I was also planning on working on that one, the on-prem support. Okay. Maybe there's some bugs if you use it on some custom APIs. It's not always working correctly. So but for the rest, it's actually kind of somewhat finished, But I always say that, and then I have another idea, or I get another suggestion, and then it's okay, I have to build that, and then I just build it in. But at the moment, I don't have any really big plans or something. So that Power Automate update was a big one. So that was also born out of my personal frustration. But for the rest, no. But I'm open to suggestions. Like everyone can send any suggestions, and I look at all of them. I take them all into consideration, and also often implement them. So if anybody wants a feature, just let me know. I will probably build it.
Wow, that's an offer. Goodness
I
me.
will probably build it.
Wow.
I want one that takes money out of Scott's bank account and puts it into mine. Is that a feature?
Yeah, sure. Fine by me.
Because you can do that, right, Eric? Because is that ethical, though, really? I mean, come on. I mean, really, is that ethical?
Ethics? I never said it was ethical. I just said something I wanted.
That's disagreeable. But I'll think about it.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that we're missing, or any other projects you want to share? Anything else you think we missed?
Well, I don't know. There's nothing that I can think of right now.
Okay.
Other than go ahead and everyone download the extension and give it a go.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
Yeah. We'll have a link in the show notes, and that was I think it'll be very helpful for people that run into that same common issue that you had, that Scott said he had, that I said I have, and now more people will know who you are too, which is great too. So you can, I guess, get more people to give some more help too in places too, which is always good. So you never know. You never know when someone comes up with something you're like, oh, that's great, that's what I need, and you pull it in. So
open to suggestions. So do you also want me to? Was it the plan also that I would give a demo of the tool, or was it just?
Oh, we are a podcast first and foremost, and not
course.
really a visual outside of. We are on YouTube for our people, so no, we don't need a demo, but you can share a link to a YouTube video if you have one that you want to do for a demo.
There's a link, isn't there, in the Chrome?
The link is
in the store.
The link is in the store.
Yes,
yeah.
It's in the store.
Yeah.
So we'll pull that out and have that in the show notes and stuff like that. So Eric, I've appreciated getting to know you. If our listeners want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Doesn't really. You can send me a message on LinkedIn or on my Twitter.
Okay.
I guess you will link to those.
We can link to those. Yes, we will.
And that's it. Send me a message on either one of those, or maybe in the Discord recently. So I joined the Discord a few days ago, and I like it. So you can also send me a message there. I'm called PrettifyMyWebApi in that one. So feel free to drop me a message. Yeah.
It was pretty obvious how you were associated to it once I saw it. I was like, he's owning that. That's right.
That makes sense.
Scott's just like Scott or something. Are you? What are you, Scott? Yeah. I'm early bound forever. So I took my that way. So it's fun. Kind of a fun place.
That was just to wind up Jonas, though. That was what it was.
Anytime I can do that, it's always a bonus. So, well, Eric, thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. Yes. Scott, that's how our listeners can get hold of our guests. How can our listeners get hold of us?
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. Yeah, you can email us at cast@xrmtoolbox.com, and you can get us on socials at xrmtoolcast. And if you want any shout outs or suggestions for future shows, or just to let us know what you thought, that would be great. We'd love to hear from you. And Eric, it's been fantastic having you on, and thanks ever so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I think what you describe it as like making coworkers positively jealous of your pretty web API output. I think that's what you wrote, right? So I'm looking forward to making my coworkers positively jealous.
Nice.
And it's a great tool. And also, I really would love to hear more about the whole security governance side of things. I think
that would be very interesting. Got at least 2 readers for that blog post whenever that comes out, whenever it can.
Yes. Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah. I mean, I have some ideas about the governance, so I guess I guess it might be interesting, but I will think about it.
All right. Well, thanks, Eric. It's great meeting you, and hope you have a great day.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Cheers, then. Bye-bye.
This has been the XRM Toolcast with Daryl and Scott Durrell, produced by Lynn Zawin. If you have any questions or suggestions, please send them to cast@xrmtoolbox.com, tweet @XRM Toolcast, or hit us up on our LinkedIn XRM Toolcast page.